Okay, let's look at data lineage transparency in DataVerse. Okay, when you first log into DataVerse, you see your lineage flows organized into different categories. So you can organize your lineage flows any way you'd like. We're going to take a look at this customer data flow. All right, so what do we see here? We see that there are 5 hops in this flow. This is a small lineage flow. As you know, these lineage flows can get quite large and complex. I'm going to zoom out to show the scale that's possible in DataVerse to accommodate large lineage flows of any size. So users can zoom way out to view the entire lineage flow and then zoom in to view the detail or maybe just the application that's their responsibility. I'm going to take a look at the source application called Lightspeed Retail Ops. This is the application name followed by the database type. It's running on Oracle, then the schema name, and then the table name. And we see that this cust ops ref table has data that's moving to this cust staging table in an application called BrightPearl running on MySQL, then to this customer ODS table running on an application called Cellbrite on Postgres, and then to this cust ref data warehouse table in this order hive data warehouse system running on SQL Server, and then finally to this report cust table in a Skubana POS application running on Derby. But what's the business problem we're trying to solve here? So we received an email from a user named Roxy Shea, and Roxy's revoking consent to her personal data. So we need to identify which tables contain customer records, and for those that contain Roxy, we need to take action. So we'll start by looking at the source table. So I click here and it exposes all of the columns in the table. So what information do we have? We have Roxy Shea, and since she sent an email, we have her email address. So notice how you can multi-select to get the information you need. You can also search for the information that you need as well. And here we are. So now we can follow Roxy's data on its journey from table to table. So what do we see here? So we see all of the data elements that make up a customer record. This is what's done in the mapping portion of the software. And then we see that this record, Roxy's record, and all of its contents are moving from table to table. And we start to notice the software is recognizing some anomalies here, but we'll get to those in a minute. It doesn't matter what the column is called. So you see here customer ID, client ID, cust ID. Global IDs resolves the meaning of this data in using our machine learning algos during classification. So you see it here again, first name, given name, F name. Doesn't matter what the column is called. The software recognizes what the data is and groups it together. So we see the data moving from table to table, and we now know which tables contain Roxy's data. Now to summarize, DataVerse shows lineage flows at the record level, and all lineage flow data is visible on one screen. Okay, now let's look at how DataVerse governs data quality as the data moves. So here we are again at our lineage flow models. I'm going to go up here to the menu and select ODQ, which stands for Operational Data Quality. And we're going to go into our customer data flow model again. We are familiar with this flow, and we're going to investigate that anomaly that we saw when we were investigating Roxy Shea's data. So let's take a look. Let's find Roxy. Here she is. Now you're going to notice that this looks a bit different than it did last time. I'm going to start with the data governance policy. So I talked earlier about how master data and reference data teams usually manage their data policies very well in their source application. But the quality problems begin when the data leaves the source system. So DataVerse gives users the ability to enforce that master data or reference data or really any other data quality policy across all hops in the lineage flow, or as I like to say, across the entire data lifecycle. So let's take a look at some of these rules. So for customer identifier, no special characters are allowed. Numeric data type is the only one that's allowed. They should be either 9 or 10 digits. For customer email, they should match a reference data set. Numeric and date data types are not allowed for customer email addresses. For cities, no special characters are allowed, and on and on. So all of these rules make up your customer data governance policy, and they're listed here in DataVerse. They can be as simple or as complex as you need them to be. And the data governance policy highlights noncompliance as the data moves from table to table. Let's go back to that anomaly we saw when we were looking at Roxy's data. Okay, let's see, here we are. So now the software is recognizing this in red because we're in the data quality. And it looks here like the record was truncated when it moved from this table to this table. User can click on this anomaly to look at or see the rule that's in violation. And DataVerse demonstrates closed loop remediation by allowing users to submit an issue for an incident management rep to take action to resolve the non-compliance. So we'll call this a verified error and create the issue. So Global IDs does have an incident management module to manage these requests, but typically our customers use the incident management software and processes that they already have in place. Global IDs does integrate with both Jira and ServiceNow to allow your incident management processes to remain unchanged. You'll notice also that DataVerse summarizes the quantity of records in each table with the quantity that comply with the policy in green and the quantity that do not comply with the policy in red. A user can click on the non-compliant records to look at the reason for non-compliance and can submit an issue for resolution. Remember, in DataVerse, the data flows from left to right, so it's always important to address the anomaly or the non-compliance as far upstream as possible so that the improvement flows downstream. So once again, DataVerse allows you to govern data quality across the full life cycle of your data. Okay, now let's look at how DataVerse delivers transformation transparency. Okay, here we are back at our lineage models, but this time we're going to look at this regulatory reporting data flow. You'll notice a visual cue that DataVerse is presenting. This visual cue means that DataVerse has detected a data transformation that's occurring as the data moves from the left to the right. So if the user clicks on this icon, you'll see the software provides transparency into the nature of the transformation. So on the left, plain simple English description of what's happening. The center, an illustration showing that state, zip code, city, and client address in this CC loan table is being concatenated into the column full address, and then on the right-hand side is the code. We can go ahead and take a look at this other transformation. You see, this one is an example of first name and last name being concatenated into a full name column with the description, illustration, and the code. So when data quality anomalies are occurring, they could very well be occurring because of transformations in your environment. But DataVerse gives users transparency into their data transformations. Okay, now let's look at how DataVerse reconciles data movement jobs. Here we are back at our lineage models. Many of you know there are 6 dimensions of data quality. They are accuracy, completeness, consistency, timeliness, validity, and uniqueness. I'm going to show you how DataVerse allows users to validate the completeness of their data flow. So this time, I'm going to go from the menu, I'm going to select reconciliation, and we'll go back into our familiar customer data flow model. Now let's select a record of interest. Let's see. This time we'll choose Maggie. And click on the reconciliation icon, and we'll see that the screen looks different again. We're presented with this data reconciliation menu here at the top. We can click to open up the menu, and the user needs to decide how far back in time they want the software to go to reconcile the data flow. So you can have the software reconcile daily, weekly, monthly, annually. Let's have the software go back 6 months. So I want the software to answer the question, did all of my customer records successfully move from source to target in the last 6 months? All right, so what do we see? We see that all 513 records moved from the first table to the second. But when we got to the Cellbrite application, 5 records did not arrive as planned. So a user can click on these 5 non-compliant records in red to view the records that were dropped. I refer to this as data leakage. Data is leaking from the value chain. So DataVerse gives you the ability to reconcile the movement of data and verify that all records move to their intended target as planned.